also drying up. So we resorted to buying water. So I took up the issue with the councillor, and I also wrote to who's this what Ngurare, because apparently he's the head of rural water supply, because we are receiving water through rural water supply, not through NAM water. So I took up the issue, and then he referred me to speak to somebody in Utapi, Rural Water Supply Branch, Mr. Hausiku, and or I can also speak to another guy called Mr. Chikundi or something. They told me at first that apparently it was a pipe that was burst, but then that does not hold water, because even if a pipe is burst, automatically you could receive some drop of water, isn't it? But because we could not receive anything, and then I had to push them to investigate what is the issue. Now I was told, no, now water has got a problem, and what. We don't know now. Where is the problem? Is it the water burst? I mean, is it the pipe that burst? Or is it now water issue? We need to be engaged as a public, as a community, to know what is happening. And we also need an immediate solution, because we cannot keep on resorting to buying water from people who own cars, because those people have to go to Utapi or canals, get water, and then they can sell us. A 25 liter will cost us $5. So I don't think in an independent Namibia we should suffer as such. So the issue, just in a nutshell, is the water crisis that is hampering Utapi constituency, and I also understand Anamlenga constituency is also in the same boat. So now the specific that I want you guys to look into, because I'm also fighting for my village, that pipe that took water from Utapi is called Ohaniala Okatanyange pipeline. And I'm sure the rural water supply branch is aware of that, but I don't know whether they have got a plan of action. When can we expect to get solution to this particular problem? Because we know if nothing happens, it will drag up until next year, and we'll be told, no, we must depend on water, rainfall water, and all these kind of things. So we need to depend on hygienic water, and we can't keep on resorting to rainfall water. So that is the issue so far, unless you have a question, Mr. Rudolph.
The water that you are buying now is not tap water again.
It depends, because now if a person has got a connection, let's say in Utapi, or they have a house in Utapi, they can go get water from Utapi and can sell us. But if they don't have a house in Utapi or where they can get clean water, they will have to go to the canal, get the water, and then come sell us. Yes, because the lakes that we have, they are drying up, because that is what our animal depends on, those lakes. We also depend on that, and the water is not even now good for consumption, the one in the lake, and they are drying up. Maybe before we also move on, I was just reliably informed that the council apparently brought a tank of water maybe last week. But imagine we only have that 10,000 liter container where we get our water from, and it's not sufficient for the village, for the entire village. We have got around 69 households in our village, and a 10,000 liter container will not sustain us at all. So until such a time, that is just a short-term solution. We need a long-term solution, so that come next year, we are not going to suffer the same problem.
You said you are not receiving water from NAM Water. What branch is that?
That is apparently because our water is mainly from rural water supply. But I don't know how NAM Water interlinked in the story. But our water is supposed to be supplied through rural water supply.
And when you take this matter to the councillor, what response did you get from him?
The responses, that's why I'm saying we need clear direction and clear explanation. At some point, we were saying apparently the reservoir for NAM Water is not sufficient to cater for the entire constituency or so. At some point, we have been told, no, it's because there was a pipe burst that takes water to our villages and so forth. So we need a clear cut. Him himself, as a councillor, he must come out and speak to the community and tell us what is happening, when can we expect solution. Because hearsay, or even me hearing from him only, and then today is this story, tomorrow is that story, It's not adding up.
These are the concerns of the people of Ohamunyala as well as Okatanyange constituencies in Otapi. They are saying that the last time they got a drop of water was in August 2021. As they spoke with my colleague Rudolph Iyambo there, we had to reach out to the councillor, that's Mr. Emmanuel Shikongo, to try to see what is happening. So these are the concerns, Councillor Shikongo, coming from the residents of Otapi, most importantly from the constituencies of Okatanyange and Ohamunyala. And they are saying that the last time that they received a drop of water was August last year. They are saying that 25 liters of water, which they are now buying from the Otapi Town Council, is costing them $5. You are responsible for these people. Councillor, what is happening?
From the onset, it has been an issue in our constituency, and I think the region at large, that there has been parts affected by poor rainfalls, but the main problem is the supply of non-water, supplying water to some of the villages due to pressure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So what is happening, or what has happened, is that NAM-Water is a dark supply of water within this branch or Otapi. NAM-Water has a station in Otapi town.
Right.
NAM-Water, through that station, NAM-Water supply water both to the local authority, which is town council, and supply water to rural villages. Now what happens, there is a station that we have for NAM-Water in Otapi.
Right.
The pump station, the capacity is very, very small. I think it was made at a time, but at that time, to my thinking, the population of Otapi constituency and the population which benefit from that particular line, it was not the population we have now.
Right.
What we are experiencing now is that the supply of water that goes to residents of the town and the supply that goes to villages, including Ohamunyala and Okatanyange, is little.
Right.
So the pumping system that NAM-Water use, the production capacity can no longer accommodate the number of inhabitants.
Right.
Because apart from Okatanyange, Ohamunyala, Okekete, and we have also some villages in the south like Omaumba, or parts of Nakoya, like Oshituka on the other side. And we also experience, even in town sometimes, there are also villages that are close to town, outside the town boundary, but are close to the system, but they were also affected without water. Yes.
All right. So with this growing population in these constituencies in Otapi, do you have a plan for these people?
Yeah, what I should indicate, immediately when we learned that we have a problem of the supply of water, we take up this matter with NAM-Water. We had several meetings with NAM-Water. Yeah, NAM-Water indicated to us that they have an arrangement. So, and they secured some funds for the construction of another system equivalent to the existing one that will be assisting in the supply of water. But on the current status, what we do, NAM-Water has a trust which now supply water to community water tankers. Every community now has to request that the truck to supply water, of course on a recovery basis. So you have to pay that water. But the plan is to have a permanent solution to this situation. So we set with NAM-Water.
Right.
NAM-Water promised to install a pump station which will be supplying which will pump much water to equivalent to the current system that they are using, or either the bigger one. We also took up the matter with the office of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister was here 2 weeks back. So we said it was the councillor and the governor, as well as the regional chairman of from South region, together with the CRO and all other regional council members. So we discussed this matter at length. So we take it up with the Prime Minister, and it also went to an extent where the official of Nam Water from the head office, that who is this guy? Yeah, the management of Nam Water from the senior staff management, they were also here.
Right.
I think this issue is receiving a very attention it deserves.
That's all right. And Councillor, do you know when the plans are going to be rolled out? When the residents of Ohamunyala and Okatanyange are going to be getting their water? Is that anytime soon?
Yeah, because this is a system that involves many offices. Me and you here, Kelvin, today I cannot confirm to say maybe from when we should be supplying water. Remember, Nam Water is the custodian of the water. And me being also the representative of the masses here on the ground, I'm also tired of receiving calls, and I'm also tired of hearing my people not getting water. All what I'm praying for is just we need to have water so that our people will then have water to drink as women, as well as water for their animals. Because water is really life.
That's all right. Councillor Emmanuel Shikongo, we do appreciate you say, and we hope that whatever plans you have for the people there will be expedited.
Yeah. Maybe what I should indicate lastly is
right.
that the issue, I thought you spoke about people of, Nam Water telling people to, not Nam Water, but local authority telling water to individuals.
Right.
I think that is not the case. Maybe these are individuals, maybe from towns or elsewhere from states that are working. But I don't think there is a plan that a local authority is sending water to communities outside town. I think it's an issue of people, individuals, on their own rights, which I also don't know, going in the village and selling water to such a price. I don't think it's an arranged thing from the office.
All right.
The arrangement in the office is the one that Nam Water supply water through their water tankers, through community water tankers. So,
right.
and that is the system that we are using. And we are really looking forward to have the situation normalized. We are always together with Nam Water, and we want Nam Water really to solve this issue together with the ministry that's responsible for water.
That's right, Councillor.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Shikongo, thank you so much for speaking with Eagle FM. We hope to get in touch with you, sir, when next you are likely going to have development.
I really appreciate your call.
That's right, sir.
Thank you very much.
My name is Calvin, and welcome to the Early Morning Scoop.
Well, just because a judge finds a person guilty but not mean a person is guilty. Judges have found people guilty and they have won on appeal. We feel bad because of his minister and his reverse parking is bad.
Okay, so the city of Windhoek wants to rename Bismarck Street.
No, I don't think it's okay. It should just remain the same.
Is it the only street that is named after a colonizer, though?
We are talking about young people, why they are not interested to vote.
I really don't think the government has put us at interest, because at least they should come up with awareness why we should vote and things like that.
This is the Early Morning Scoop on Eagle FM.
Eagle FM, the eye.
All right, that's the situation there in Otapi. The time now is 8 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. You continue to listen to the Early Morning Scoop right here on the station. Now, as we continue to take a look at developments right across the continent of Africa, the coup d'etat that has happened now in Burkina Faso, we are about to take you through the history of coup d'etats in Africa and what the position of Namibia is in connection with this political phenomenon elsewhere on the continent of Africa. We sat down with the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, to try to see how they are viewing these developments from Namibia, and also from the perspective of the African Union and the perspective of SADC. And let's get right into that report that we have for you. The time now, 9 minutes after 6 o'clock. The 1963 Togolese coup d'etat was a military coup that occurred in the West African country of Togo on the 13th of January 1963. The coup leaders, notably Emmanuel Bojole, Etienne Eyadema, later Nasimbe Eyadema, and Kleber Dadio, took over government buildings, arrested most of the cabinet, and assassinated Togo's first president, Sylvanus Olympio, outside the American embassy in Lome. The coup leaders quickly brought Nicholas Grunitsky and Antoine Miachi, both of whom were exiled political opponents of Olympio, together to form a new government. While the government of Ghana and its president Kwame Nkrumah were implicated in the coup d'etat and assassination of Olympio, the investigation was never completed and the international outcry eventually died down. This would go down in the pages of history as the first ever coup d'etat on an independent African state. It set the motion for what would become a chaotic period of military officers taking over power via unconstitutional means. The 21st century is ushering in so many of these countries coup-proofing themselves, and some like DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, holding their first ever democratic elections in a peaceful atmosphere. But it seems coups are back. Robert Mugabe would be taken down by his own generals.
Robert Mugabe has ruled Zimbabwe since the country's liberation 37 years ago. But now the military has seized control.
After him would follow Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, taken down by Kenel Assimi Goïta. In less than a year, a civilian government would also suffer the same fate, with Goïta rising to the helm and now seeking to rule without a democratic mandate for the next 5 years.
There has been another military coup, the second one in just 9 months. Both the president and the prime minister have been arrested. It is a rerun of what happened in August last year. The same colonel is leading the takeover. The same military base is being used to detain the president, and the same promise is being repeated by the junta. Fresh elections in 2022. Why is Mali stuck in this cycle of takeovers, and what is at stake for Western Africa?
Closer to Mali, Alpha Conde would be detained by Mamadi Doumbouya in Guinea, another military head honcho taking over as president.
The man behind the latest coup in Guinea-Conakry says that he wants a peaceful transition. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya calls a meeting of ministers of ousted President Alpha Conde after banning them from leaving the country and dissolving the government.
The dominoes would fall on Sudan, where General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan detained Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok before recalling him, although he later quit the government.
A coup attempt is taking place in Sudan. The Armed Forces Ministry has said in a statement that the army has detained the civilian Prime Minister, Abdallah Hamdok.
According to one study, Sub-Saharan Africa experienced 80 successful coups and 108 failed coup d'etats between 1956 and 2001, an average of 4 coup d'etats a year. The figure halved in the period from then till 2019 as most African nations tend to democracy, only for it to once again be on the ascendance. Between 2020 and 2022, Africa has suffered 6 coup d'etats all in all.
A coup attempt is taking place.
The latest coup in Guinea-Conakry.
There has been another military coup.
The military has seized control.
We spoke with International Relations Minister Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah to try to understand what exactly is happening on the continent of Africa as far as its democratic underpinnings are concerned vis-a-vis the rising phenomenon of coup d'etats. Take a listen.
Yes, Carmen.
Yes, you are our Minister of International Relations. You are following what's happening, I'm pretty sure, in Burkina Faso, where we have experienced a 5th coup d'etat on the continent of Africa within a space of 2 years. Are you quite concerned about the political developments on the continent of Africa, and what could be the reason why this is happening?
You are right. I'm very much concerned. Namibia is very much concerned because after EU took it not to recognize governments that comes to power undemocratically,
right.
There was like a quietness, and we were experiencing at least an improvement that the number of coups was reducing in the continent. Unfortunately, of late, we are
seeing the increment, and it's really a worrying factor because it's likely to undermine what Africa is yearning to, particularly as articulated in Agenda 2063. And you may recall that after the first program to be implemented in the first 10 years of implementing Agenda 2063,
right,
the number one is silencing of the guns. But it seems we are not getting there. So something might have gone wrong somewhere, and we need to find a way how to address it. So it's really not the way how things are happening now in the continent. It's a worrisome. And of course the AU is going to meet next week. We are really hoping that if countries who are undemocratically changing governments, I think some review needs to be done. So that is really what I can say at this stage.
That's all right. And if we are to take a look at this decade alone, it will be the sixth coup d'etat if we are to add the two coups that happened in Mali, and then we are to add the coup d'etat that happened in Zimbabwe that toppled longtime President Robert Mugabe. Do you think that these coups and the idea of coming to power via a coup d'etat is one that's being exported around the continent of Africa? And is that also an existential threat on the existing democratically elected governments right across the continent?
I'm not sure now on whether what happened in Zimbabwe can be compared with the others, because you know that Zimbabwe since then has experienced a democratic process that has taken place. So, but what we are saying is that the situation we are experiencing, particularly in West Africa, is very threatening. The whole concept of implementing Agenda 2063, and serious discussions really need to take place and find a way how we can all accept that we cannot go back to those days when the continent was just having coup one after the other.
That's all right. What do you think is the long-term sustainable solution to this? Because some are saying that these coups are happening as a result of the weakness in the government in these countries, or a failure to respond to the promises that were made to the people, responding to the existential problems politically, economically, that are in these countries. If we take a look at Burkina Faso, for instance, Roch Marc Christian Kabore, the president, is being accused of having failed dismally to put down the jihadist insurgents there. The same thing happened with Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in Mali, who also got a coup against him because of accusations that he had failed to put down the fundamentalists, the jihadists working out in Mali there. Do you think the coups are a result, a direct product of a failure in governance?
I really feel that if we can strengthen our governance institution, if we can also ensure that our economic sectors are designed in a way that will be able to address the needs of the people, and to ensure that there is a balanced sharing of the wealth of the countries, whereby we can ensure that our citizens, they feel the ownership of what is happening in their countries, that will enable them to realize the importance of national or Pan-Africanism, and to work together in unity. I believe going that direction might help us when we have to ensure inclusiveness in our developmental agenda, when we can ensure inclusiveness in the management of our national and continental activities to enable that the citizens of our countries, they are empowered to become very innovative, particularly the young people, so that they can be the innovators and the creators of wealth that we have to ensure that is balancedly shared by the citizens of our country. I'm sure that that will take us somewhere where we can ensure peace and stability in our respective countries. That also will mean that we will have peace and stability in the region, in the continent. And Africa will be able to manage her own activities without really relying too much on the international community. And when we are engaging the international community, we do so as partners, equal partners, that each one appreciates the other. So I really feel that is the way to go. And it's quite possible. We just need to have a political will, a commitment, and all of us to pull in the same direction as our President Gencop always advised, that we must pull in the same direction.
That's right, Honorable Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. And as we part, the last question that I have for you is that at the African Union level, are you ready to work with presidents that have come to the helm as a result of coups d'etats? I'm asking this question because I know that the AU, ECOWAS have taken measures against Mali, and you are also looking at Guinea, you're looking at Sudan right now. Will you ever allow these strongmen in the African Union to work with you when they've come through such illegitimate means?
No, you are right. In fact, as we are going now to the Assembly, Namibia is expected to be elected to serve in the AU Peace and Security Council. And that is the body that advises on what action should be taken. Namibia's position really is to reaffirm earlier decision which has been taken by the AU not to recognize governments which come to power undemocratically. So that is going to be our position. We will advocate it because failure to do so, we are just encouraging countries not to adhere to that particular decision, hence undermining what Africa wants to achieve in the best interest of the African people.
That's right. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for speaking with Eagle FM. We do appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is the Honorable Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, responding to the political developments right across the continent of Africa. Within this particular decade, Africa has experienced in total 6 coups d'etats right now. If we are also to factor in the coup d'etat orchestrated by the military in Zimbabwe that toppled longtime President Robert Mugabe, including 2 coups d'etats that played out in Mali against Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, as well as President Bandao, orchestrated by the military led by Kenel Assimi Goïta, another coup playing out in Guinea, orchestrated and led by another military person, this time around Mamadi Doumbouya, a coup d'etat in Sudan perpetrated and led by General Buran against Abdallah Hamdok, and now yet another coup in this particular week where Burkina Faso is supposed to be finalizing the trial into the historic assassination of Thomas Isidro Sankara, and the military have taken over. President Roch Marc Christian Kabore has been detained now at a military camp by mutinying soldiers. For security sources and a West African diplomat have said this following heavy gunfire around his residence on Sunday night in the capital, Ouagadougou. You continue to listen to the Early Morning Scoop, and thank you so much.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not no fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build. Why should we do that? You know, a person who doesn't have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura, and I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we have been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM,
My name is Calvin, and welcome to the early morning scoop.
Just because a judge finds a person guilty does not mean a person is guilty. Judges have found people guilty and they have won on appeal.
We feel bad because of he's a minister and his reverse parking is bad.
Okay, so the city of Windhoek wants to rename Bismarck Street.
No, I don't think it's okay. It should just remain the same.
Is it the only street that is named after a colonizer, though?
We are talking about young people, why they are not interested to vote.
I really don't think the government had put us its interest, because at least they should come up with awareness why we should vote and things like that.
This is the early morning scoop on Eagle FM.
Eagle FM, the eye.
All right, exactly 25 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Remember, you can always give us a call right here in the studio so that we can hear from you what you make of what we're talking about there. 6 coup d'etats in less than a decade on the continent of Africa. Are coups getting fashionable once again? And to what extent do they pose an existential threat, most importantly, to the democratic process of coming up with leadership right across the continent of Africa? And do we see West Africa exporting the phenomenon of coup d'etats? This is what is coming through there. 26 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Join us on our live Facebook live stream, and of course on our YouTube account, Eagle FM Namibia. My name is Kevin. We are here until 7 o'clock. I'm just about to take you right into the politics within the Popular Democratic Movement. That's the official opposition. And of course, the opposition leader, Mackenzie Venani, is expected to be visiting green schemes right across the country. And he's coming from his facility tour of the oil storage facility, where he was asking the question, why is it that our fuel prices are going up when we do have this particular storage here? At the same time, the top 6 of the Popular Democratic Movement resolved to relieve the current Secretary General of the Popular Democratic Movement Youth League, Mr. Benson Kashiriyova, and the current Vice Chairperson of the Popular Democratic Movement Youth League, Felicia Motinga, from their positions with immediate effect. We had questions, of course, for Mr. Manu Ngaringombe. We understand that there was a Congress that was held last year, but it could not be successful. And of course, the information that we're getting is that more or less 300,000 Namibian dollars was used, and that Congress ended up being botched. Who is ever to get to be brought to account? And at the same time, the Popular Democratic Movement has said that they will take measures against those that are putting the party through the mud or walking the party through the mud. Wanted to find out what kind of measures do they have, amongst other issues. Let's get right into the questions that we had for Mr. Emmanuel Ngaringombe.
Like a process that will start from now on. We'll start from the branches and going to the regions and then national structures. I want to know, when you disband regional structures, because regional structures are made up of those branches that you're talking about, are you also going further and disband the branches and sections that are already in place, or are we just basically saying that the people who are leading regional structures are the problem? And yeah, perhaps maybe you must answer that question. And we know that the dispute, or let's say the bone of contention at the failed Congress last year, was the issue of delegates. I'm not sure whether we have addressed that issue, and I don't know whether going forward, of course, now that you have now put in place people who are also seen to have affiliated to certain factions within the party, not only within the youth leagues structures, but within the mother body. These people are seen to be or believed to be part of certain factions. Is this not going to divide the youth league further? Because we know that there are two factions in the party, and we know that there are two factions in the youth league, and people and your members are divided alongside those factions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kama, very good question. Yes, one of the board conventions, as you say, it was delegates. Delegates are coming from regional structures. And when we do our investigation, is that some of these regional structures were not well structured, it was not constitutional, and that's where some of the problems are. So when we disband, it's not that they are not doing their work, it's just that the new restructuring was not done well. And for you to make sure that things are done well, you have to break the foundation and rebuild it. So we are disbanding the regional executive committee, also the constituencies and local branches. They will all be restructured for us to get the right process. Now I have to come to your question of having people that are overseeing and running the youth league and the working committee being members of factions. I don't know members of which factions they are. Let me be very honest with you. The PDM in general, it's a mother body, does not have factions. The youth league does not have factions. They have perceived, individuals have perceived factions. Thinking of 2024, and who I do want to take over the party, to lead the party. And those are, as I'm saying, perceived factions. And we don't allow this party to be run by factions. We have one PDM, we have one organization, we have one body. So those specific factions have been addressed. We are addressing individuals that are coming that with those issues. At the moment, the party and the youth league, they are not specific factions. It's just what people are thinking. It's just what people are hoping. Maybe I want this person to lead or that person to lead. But we really don't have factions that you say PDM is divided in two. No. And members that are members of the working committee does not belong to any faction. They just belong to the mother body, which is PDM. And it's not function. Let me say this to you. Members of the PDM as a party have the right to wish, have the right to long, and right to say, I want to lead the organization. It's the right, it's a constitutional right. I say this all the time, and I will say it again. If you can't be a politician if you don't have a vision to grow. I just want to be Secretary General for life. No, it does not work like that. You must grow. But you must be timely. We can't talk about I want to be the president of PDM as Manuel Ngaringombe in 2024 or the chairperson or the vice president while I'm in 2022. 2022 must ask to build all the structures to strengthen the movement. When you come to 2024, 2023, when we have all the procedures and we declare the Congress, and then any person can go and work. But if we start to say, now I want this and please stand behind me, that is wrong. And I think that is just perceived in some young people's head, but it's not a reality within the party.
There is an allegation that's coming from sources within the PDM that says that the youth leader that you have now sacked was very instrumental individually amongst other individuals in running down that previous Congress through the mud of illegalities and chaos because he wanted to retain power. Have you been able to verify that?
I want to say one thing that you talk about the sacked. We did not sack anyone, and I hope it will be your headlines. Honorable Kachiriola age is beyond 35. He was supposed to give power. In PDM, when you are, this league is from 15 to 35. Beyond 35, you should give power. He was supposed to give power. He was supposed to hand over. And because he could not, and the Congress could not allow him to do that, And now also in the meantime got a new responsibility late last year, as you know, he's now Secretary for Organization and Mobilization. We said maybe it's good because also now people are saying, but how can we also be led by somebody that is over the age? We say, we relieve you. So we don't need the word suspend and expel and sack. We just relieve him to keep the constitution because he's above age. We relieve you, do your other part, and thank you for what you've done. So we haven't sacked him. And also say to gain power. I don't believe that because if he wants to stay on and gain power, then he's against the constitution. The constitution of PDM is very clear. When you are 35, you give over. So those sources must tell you because no one in this organization will go beyond the party and the Youth League constitution. The constitution is very clear. It's when you are 35, you are no more part of the Youth League. So those sources must clarify that. But I'm telling you, one thing that we will respect in this party is legality. We will respect the constitution of the mother body and its wings.
You say that there are some measures and the party will not hold back to take measures against those that have botched this particular Congress and have presided over a festival of illegalities because of power retention. What kind of measures will you likely take?
No, I said we had a meeting, we discussed issues. And I think if you read me, it says we will not stop to take any action for those forward that will do that. So if we have reprimanded our youth, we have talked to them, we have had honest and opinion straight talk. We have taken internal measures, not very strong and overboard measures. But all we are saying is that if this repeats itself, we are not hesitating to take any disciplinary actions. And that will determine when we come at the juncture.
The same youth leader that you have now sacked was asked a question by my colleague from the Namibian newspaper as to what was his assessment of the performance of the youth wing of the PDM over the past 10 years that he's been in power. And he says, I have no idea. What has been your assessment of the Youth League of the PDM during the time that he was in power, vis-a-vis the Youth League's visibility in connection with other political parties that have equally been quite visible, like the Swapo Party, Youth League, the Landless People's Movement, Student Command Element? They've been quite vocal. Can you say that the youth wing of the opposition, official opposition movement has been as vocal, as competent, and as out there?
Then Secretary General, I won't sit here and say, no capacity, Kachiriwa don't have this capacity or that capacity. And whoever the sources are that went out and say he does not have this capacity or know-how of politics or know-how of management, that's their personal opinions. It's not for me to come and discuss the capacities and capabilities of Mr. Kachiriwa. I'm not doing what we call appraisals, performance appraisals here. And if those individuals have done their performance appraisals and treat you with that information, it's at liberty for them to discuss that. I discuss the functions and structures of the organization as is, and I'm not here to pinpoint on individuals unless there is a matter to discuss an individual and take actions against an individual. Yes, the issue of the PDM performance. And when I read that, I was like, what is happening? And when I asked the SG, he told me, no, I said, I want to get my notes together and give them a proper report. And maybe the report that I don't know. So, but I don't know, I was not there, I can't talk. But let me be honest, the PDM Youth League have delivered in this country. We delivered. PDM have a lot of youthful leaders. Sakia says I'm old. Sakia, this year I'm just 47. I'm still youthful.
All right, that's the conversation that we had with Mr. Emmanuel Ngaringombe, the man that has now been asked to step down, or will step down within the Popular Democratic Movement Youth League, is Benson Kachiriova. We got in touch with him and we had questions for him as well.
Benson, we just want you to give us comment. You know, we never heard from you since the collapse of the 2021 Congress that was held in November. And we did not know of what happened actually. And then you did not pronounce yourself on the proceedings, or let's say on the happenings of that Congress. Perhaps maybe you can you just please walk us through of in terms of what happened, and then respond to the decision of the party to remove you from that position.
Thank you, actually, Mr. Ikela, for that question. Now, I think what transpired at the Congress of the Youth League is done. It's underwater, the bridge. So I don't want to talk about that, because what happened is just the political. It's politics, as you are facing the 2024 Congress of the party, or internal politics that we have, where the leadership of the Youth League wanted to have a roll call, but unfortunately, some of the people, they claim to have whatever that they claim about the delegates to the Congress, that no, it was something wrong and what and so forth, where they did not wanted us to have a roll call. So it's where the problem came. So then I think it's where we call off the Congress up to now. So I think I answered your question. Yeah.
But as the leader of the Youth League,
yeah,
do you take responsibility for that failure?
Definitely, because as a leader, you must take a risk in any kind. So there's no way that I cannot be responsible for that. So I take that decision to say I must call off the Congress, because there's no agreement. Other team are just saying otherwise. As we are saying, we have to follow the meeting protocols, but unfortunately, they did not want it. So that's why I call off the meeting.
But people are blaming you for starting the chaos at the failed Congress, and they are basically attributing to the let's say the chaos that happened to you, because apparently you didn't want to follow the constitution that you are claiming to have said that you are going to follow.
How can a person call a meeting in that magnitude, and then you jeopardize with yourself? How will you do that? There's no such a thing. There's nothing like that to happen to myself. Call the meeting, and I was even ready for me to go to leave the office of the Youth League, for me to move on, and I'm still in the organization. So those people who are claiming as such, it's totally wrong. And I don't know who even informed them for them even to say that, because we were following the meeting. So my brother, there is no way in the world that you call the meeting, you cannot have a roll call. Elections meeting, you can't. You cannot have not have a roll call. So those one, they must also explain to themselves or to the nation that what happened, also for them to cause the Congress of the Youth League or to put the party in disrepute. They must also explain it.
That's right. You say that the Congress is now dead in the water. In the very same dead, dirty water, an estimated 300,000 went down the drain. Who should we have to account for that?
You know, the party itself is responsible. And as I'm telling you, this politics is about, what is it? This Congress, it was involved by the national leadership. So it was caused by the leadership.
So you are saying the national leadership sabotage
the Congress of the Youth League. The national leader involved. I don't want to mention the names of the people, but there are people that we know where they want to control the Youth League somehow. They have interest in any kind for 2024. So that's why, you know, I don't want to mention the people's name, but it happened like that.
So it's not true that you are relieved because you are overaged?
No, there is nothing like that. Actually, I try to allow myself to move on. I'm supposed to go back to the Congress and hand over to the next person, but because of the chaos, what happened there, that I can allow other young people to come and lead, even though I have to go and report to the Congress. But I'm still a member of the organization. I'm still also going there as a former SG of the Youth League to the Congress. So nothing that I can run away from this organization. So, but those people who are behind and try to tarnish some people's name, no, how can I call a meeting and then I jeopardize myself?
You have been quoted by the media, when you were asked what have been your major accomplishments for the past 10 years that you have been in power, you're quoted to say that you absolutely had no idea. Do you still have no idea?
My brother, actually it was Mr. Ikela, he's the one caused the chaos. And other media, they reported otherwise. He's only the person that he wanted to destroy me. I don't know who's even behind him, to destroy the PDM Youth League or to destroy Benson Kashiriova. So he's the one. So we haven't have a youth league constitution. We haven't have a structure in this organization, and I put those things in place. So what is that?
So you build structures.
Say again?
So your leadership will be remembered for building structures, PDM structures.
Yes,
and drafting the constitution.
We actually not even drafted just a constitution.
For 10 years.
No, I'm just saying. So when we started from the scratch, from nothing, this organization. So even some of you know, we had two seats in parliament. So from there we moved to 5, from 5 to 16. So now I think we are in a better position for us even to revive the organization to a better place, even for us even to take over the government.
Do you think that your PDM Youth League that you're leaving, take a commercial break?
Bo ile mungeshefawe eakulo lo internet talimbiri palele nolishi okulinekerwa lo parates paife otenje eakulo lo pamapatafano wa midingoro kongashi ondangwa ongwediva no shakati nokukupa owa we data osho eakulo lo network la shiako dareda po parates.africa/NA de tolitalele komayakuro de tolitalele komamudi omayakuro avo havayanje ile usai na penabo pa online.
Good morning. You're listening to the Early Morning Skip, and thank you so much for coming through. Yesterday, Reuters, an international media company, reported to say Shell has made a significant oil and gas discovery at a closely watched offshore well in Namibia, which could spark a wave of investment in the Southern African country. 3 industry sources told the Reuters, according to them. But of course, we do have with us the spokesperson of the Ministry of Mines and Energy, Mr. Andreas Simon, to try to find out, is this anything that we should really take as the truth? Is this what is on the ground? Mr. Andreas, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Calvin. How are you?
Doing very well. Can you confirm what Reuters is saying here? Is this the truth?
Yeah, my phone is ringing nonstop. I'm getting calls. We're getting calls from all types of media houses right now. But look, what we can say is basically in the same vein as we have responded to the Reuters guys. And there's actually a whole question mark on why they didn't respond. Why they didn't publish our response as we had given it to them. But what we can say is that we can't really say much apart from that. We acknowledge and we are aware. We know that there are operations that are going on in terms of drilling and whatnot. They are busy analyzing their data, especially for what we call the Graft 1 well, and that is still ongoing. And it is obviously the objective of not just government but also of the company, the operator Shell, to safely execute their operations and also be able to collect data in a good time. And then once they are done doing that assessment of the data, then maybe after that we'll know what we are sitting with, and then perhaps the findings will then be communicated to the public. But as it stands right now, we cannot really say or confirm that yes, there's oil found, because nothing came to the ministry apart from the information that we know that they are busy analyzing their data for Graph 1 well. And as soon as that data has been analyzed and we know what we are sitting with, then perhaps government or the ministry can then pronounce itself on those findings.
Andreas, is it likely for any sources close to Shell or Shell communicating a discovery of oil to the media without informing you first?
This at times you also need to understand, Kevin, that some of these things are also out of our control. It is obviously expected that once they have made a discovery, that government, the aligned ministry, will be the first point or the first entity to actually whom they should come in contact with, and perhaps also the shareholders. And then we then follow that line of communication where government would then communicate to its public and all other stakeholders. I don't want to say, talking about the likelihood, I mean, we have now seen it, that they're reporting something else, whilst we on this side are saying we are aware of the Graph 1 well, and those data are being analyzed, and the operations of drilling and further data analysis and all this is still ongoing. So we will only be guided on science. We will only be guided by data, and this should be empirical data that can really tell us that, look, this is what we had found. This is how much oil is ever found in that well, and it's economically viable to this extent, etc., etc. But for now, I think we can only tell the public that we are aware that the company is busy with exploration and that they are busy analyzing data. Perhaps more information is going to come to us in these short days, and perhaps when that information comes and we have looked at it, we've verified it, then only perhaps we can pronounce ourselves or inform the public and say, yes, there is oil found, it is found in this area of this much magnitude or whatever. But for now, we are only aware that they are busy with the Graph 1 well, and data analysis and all this is still ongoing.
That's all right. And at the same time, you were with the team at Valgras, where another report of a potential oil discovery was made. The last time that we spoke, you were saying that samples are still being worked on by the experts. Where are we with that?
Yeah, I also just need to correct you, and perhaps also to inform the public that we did not say, perhaps we need to correct you, that it's not right for us to say an oil discovery was made, right? The company, if I should just take all of you back, is that there was a company that was subcontracted to drill for water. So they had drilled, I think, 1 or 2 wells, and I think they have successfully drilled the first well and set up the borehole. And I think when they moved over to the second well, that's when they now perhaps saw a quite an odd-looking type of material or substance. And they were now not sure whether it is indeed oil or not, but according to them, it looked very close to oil. Yes, we were on the ground. That was, I think, early December. We were on the ground. We as a ministry, we did take some samples for analysis at the labs. Those results came out, but we also then were advised by also the same lab that did do the analysis that perhaps a second round of data collection must again, or of sample collection must take place. And we did heed the call or the recommendation. And as we speak, a second bunch of samples, I think, has been taken and for further analysis. And I think only after those ones have been analyzed and finalized, then maybe we can then pronounce and say, yes, it is indeed oil, or no, it is perhaps another substance. That's basically how far we can go in as far as the Valgras issue is concerned.
That's right, Andreas. Some people are already, expressing their sentiment on this to say the Minister of Mines is quiet. What are they doing right now after they promised us that they would come back with an answer to us concerning this issue of Valgras there? What would you want to tell impatient people out there who might not really be aware of the process of the sampling that needs to be done to get to the bottom of the matter?
Yeah. Look, perhaps what we can say is firstly that we appreciate the public's interest on the subject of Namibia discovering oil. It is our hope as government, and I think as a country as a whole, to actually find oil one day, because this can mean improvement in our economy, and also it speaks to other things that we have mentioned before. I think we looked at us not just becoming a producer, but obviously employment. We're looking at us having to now utilize oil or petroleum products at a more cost, like a low cost. It might end up that we might even be paying very low for fuel, and that's what we see in Nigeria and Angola. So that is what we want for the country, amongst many other positives that can come from discovering oil. But that's what we can inform those that are a bit impatient out there, is that they just have to bear with us. The data analysis process that's been conducted and carried out by external entities, and I think that's what we've mentioned during December, that we don't necessarily have control over how those entities must what processes they must follow, or how fast they should analyze the data that we want or that we are looking for. We also perhaps just at the mercy of them. The best we can do is perhaps to continually engage them and hope that they can fast track and give us now the results so that we may be able to communicate them back to the public to say, yes, we have found something, or we have not found something. But all that we're saying is that I think our part is done. We have then, it is now in the hands of those that are doing, that are adding further value to this whole process. And we are all just working as a team here. There's no one pushing the other, because once you push someone and anything goes wrong there, or perhaps they go and analyze samples in a hasty manner, then we want to give them time to carry out their processes and then be able to give us the findings as long as it's done in due time. Also, we need to understand that it could be that they have also gone on leave. I think that they are a private entity. These are private labs. Obviously, they have gone on leave during December, and then now they should be back to the office. And obviously, that process that we have started with them is still ongoing. We will be following up.
Right.
And then as soon as there is something, I think Kelvin, yourself, and the rest of the other colleagues will be the very first to be notified of what is going on actually.
That's right. That is Andrea Simon, the spokesperson of the Mines Ministry, of course, saying that we need to treat this information with caution because they don't have this detail on their desk to say Shell has made a significant oil and gas discovery as coming from Reuters, but the ministry saying proceed with caution with that information. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it, and we hope to get in touch with you very soon.
Thank you, Calvin. Talk to you then.
That's right.
Cheers. Bye.
This is Wanda, and you are listening to Unpacking the Day. We do this weekdays, Mondays to Fridays from 8 to 10. Join me on Eagle FM, The Eye.
All right, 7 o'clock right on the dot, and thank you so much for coming through. We are right at the end of our program, and of course, Wanda Gush is now here in the studio to take us into the unpacking of the day. And thank you so much for coming through. We do appreciate you, and also for coming to our live stream right here on Facebook. And we do appreciate that. You can always also go to YouTube and find our live stream as well there. That's Eagle FM Namibia. And this is the information that came in yesterday to say that sources within Shell are saying that we might have struck oil, by the Ministry of Mines and Energy saying that, but we don't have that detail yet right on our desk, and we cannot confirm that. Of course, Wanda is now here to take us into that unpacking. Wanda, good morning to you.
Kelvin, how are you?
Doing very well. What do you make of this oil story here?
Seeing is believing.
Right.
Yeah, we need to see it. Yeah, it's actually interesting that the Namibian has calculated the barrels using the current cost, and they came to 344 billion Namibia dollar.
Right.
The oil that is said to have been found.
To have been found.
They are saying it could be 344 billion Namibia dollar.
Right.
So that's